Inside this Game of Thrones meets Harry Potter fantasy house in Beverly Hills that can cost $150,000 in rent per month. So when Los Angeles-based real estate investor Robert Rivani and his wife Crystal purchased this Beverly Hills, California home in 2019 for $13.7 million, they knew they were going to turn it into the fantasy home of their dreams, which, by the way, this throne is pretty legit. More than $4 million in 3 years later, their 15,000 square foot mansion, which sits on 1.7 acres, is a novelty filled paradise with decor, furniture, and architecture that wouldn't look out of place on HBO's Game of Thrones or Harry Potter. Inspired by these cinematic marvels as well as Alice in Wonderland, the end result is quite the product. So the Game of Thrones spiked Iron Throne replica, which they commissioned for $50,000. Now I gotta say, like the throne replica looks amazing. Like it looks so cool. So being extra is everything to us, Crystal Rivani told the Wall Street Journal. The home was previously owned by the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cast member Carlton Gebbia, and it was built by her ex-husband, David Gebbia. The home paired David's love of Italian Renaissance architecture with Carlton's love of Gothic style. Gebbia, a Wiccan, decorated the home with cross carvings, wooden gargoyles, an altar, and a confessional which viewers saw on the show. The jungle room, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's actually a really cool room, now that I think about it. When the Rivanis bought the home, which they now call Castle Rivani, they filled it with many iconic pieces. For instance, they commissioned a $50,000 replica of the spiked iron throne from Game of Thrones, a Harry Potter themed apothecary cabinet, a jungle room with greenery covered walls, and even an Alice in Wonderland themed backyard. And I gotta say, that backyard looks amazing. See, here's the thing. If you were able to generate like disgusting amounts of money, this is the fun thing to do, right? Is like literally turn your house into something so absurd but so fun because no one can say anything about it because you just have so much money to be able to do whatever you want with it. So Casa Ravani's main entertaining space, which they call the Great Hall, has 35-foot high triple vaulted ceilings and Juliet balconies, but there is no space too large that doesn't delight with fantasy filled fun. Even a powder room features a dragon shaped gargoyle. Every room feels like a surprise, like the bar room with ornate coffered ceilings and rich, heavy red velvet curtains, or the Gothic style primary bedroom that exudes a vampire esque aesthetic. No expense was spared on the decor and furniture within the home. Like a 25-foot long, $150,000 chandelier from Dubai that resembles butterflies, a $20,000 couch in the jungle room, or the $45,000 headboard in the primary bedroom, which was sourced from a 250-year-old Austrian church altar. Other unconventional pieces include a chair made entirely from animal bone, a 17th century French cabinet, crown shaped chandeliers, and so much more. When it came to the backyard, Crystal took control and decided upon an Alice in Wonderland theme. This includes harlequin floors, which is pretty cool, colorful flowers, a life size chess set, and a vegetable garden. The Rivanis are relocating to Miami, but in the meantime have listed Casa Rivani for rent for $150,000 per month. Now, here's the thing. problem with actually doing this to your home. Like, here's the thing. If I had personally millions and millions and millions of dollars to my name to do whatever I wanted with it, I would probably go down the route of doing something so absurd like this just for the fun of it, right? Because after a certain point of like making a certain amount of money, it's like basically after making $100,000 a year after tax and basically having no expenses, money, like more money past that point, especially if you're investing and all that kind of stuff, is really just like cherry on top of the ice cream, right? Like it doesn't really change that much in terms of what you can really do in terms of like quality of life. So I'd probably just go super fun with it, buy a mansion, and do something as absurd as this. Now, I wouldn't go down their route specifically, but I would totally buy a castle and like have fun with it because why not? But again, the problem with doing something like that and customizing a mansion like that, it is going to be one, very hard for you to ever sell the property ever again, unless you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, to change it. Because you're basically looking for a very specific person that would be one, willing to do it, and then two, even have the money to even try to buy the property. So Ravani is a real estate investor and president of Black Lion. The Wall Street Journal reported that the couple recently purchased a home within the Ritz-Carlton Residences, Miami Beach. So basically also just buy a really expensive home down there too. But yeah, see, if I had the money, I would totally buy a property like this. I'd probably buy like a blank slated castle type of structure, and then I would basically just funnel money into it to basically make the greatest dream house, fun house that I could ever make. Because if money is no object to me, meaning like the amount of money that I would spend on like developing this castle for my own liking means literally nothing to me in terms of like my quality of life, I'm just gonna go absolutely crazy. I'd probably just like have like a crazy garage, have like multiple millions of like dollars of supercars. I would have like a massive foam pit because why not? I would probably have like a dirt track in the back. I would probably have a racetrack somewhere on there as well. Like I would do some like really crazy stuff. Maybe even like a rock climbing wall on the side of the house. Like I would do some really absurd stuff if I had the money to do it. Because again, after a certain point, it's really just basically you having more money so that you could basically spend more money to live in a bigger house or a bigger box or drive around in a nicer box, right? That's the way to really look at it. Like basically, the more money you make gives you the freedom to pretty much go live in a bigger, nicer box than the box that you're already in. But you get like so normalized to every single like financial point that you're actually in, right? If you have a roof over your head, if you are able to drink and eat food and put your head down to sleep at night, if you could do those things, you're going to end up basically adapting to whatever new quality of life that you get to, right? Living in a condo for like a year, you'll get used to it. After that, living into like a townhouse, you'll get used to that. Living into a nicer house, you'll get used to that. Living in a mansion, you're going to get used to that. Living in a mega mansion, you're going to get used to that. Living in a castle in the form of like a Game of Thrones situation in Harry Potter, you're going to end up getting used to that. Like that's the thing that people like a lot of people do not actually understand is that how quick humans are able to adapt to their surroundings, good and or bad. This is why people are able to like stay homeless and possibly be a little bit more comfortable staying homeless because they've adapted to that surroundings. Same thing could be said about people who have troubles basically when they leave like prison after a very long time, they get adapted to living in prison, but it's so hard for them to break that adaptation that they had because they were adapted to the living of the prison situation for decades potentially. So it's very hard for them to adapt to a newer situation, or even if they were to adapt, it's just going to feel awkward. So it's just something to really think about. Like you just constantly adapt and get used to new things, and then adapt and get used to new things, and then adapt again. If you want to learn how to get out of debt and master your money, go down below and learn how to get out of debt.